Hello, Unity community, and welcome back to another official Unity live stream here on twitch.tv/Unity, and of course, the official Unity YouTube page. My name is Jackson. I am one of your community managers, and it is my job to bring you all of the content that you see on these live stream channels. Thank you so very much for joining us today. It is our hope that you come to today's stream and leave feeling a little more connected to your Unity community, inspired, capable, and perhaps a little bit entertained. Wherever you are tuning in from, we are so grateful to have you here. Please let us know in the chat where in the world you are watching today's stream. I say it all the time, but one of the most rewarding things as a community manager is to see just how international and globally reaching our community is. So I am, again, so grateful to have you here for this incredible stream that we have coming up. We're going to be sitting down with a game dev and an animation industry professional. I want to say expert, but I'm sure they would refute, so we won't right now. But we're going to be talking about lighting your scenes to convey emotion, which is something that this game does so incredibly well. We'll be showing you a little bit about that game. We'll be showcasing all of the beauty within it, as well as approaches and tactics that you would take to lighting your own scene. So I think there's a lot to learn today. I'm very excited to have you all. And again, if you're watching on Twitch or YouTube, please be aware that we want to hear from you. We want this to be a conversation. I would love to ask your questions to our guest and connect you all to all of this wealth of knowledge and experience. So again, Twitch or YouTube, please keep the chat lively here. And again, seeing some familiar faces. Of course, we've got the Bull, Fredo. We've got Davina, of course. We also have Soggy Inc. Games over on the YouTube side. Lots of new names as well. TNTC. We've got Drokes. We've got Frontliner. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Over on the Twitch side, of course, I see you guys over there as well. We've got Lumiere Morte Mwenmen Luton. We got Noob here as well. Everybody, again, so grateful to have you. And it looks like we're jumping all over the map. Denmark, France, Guadalupe. We've got San Antonio, India, Mexico. Everybody, welcome. If you are watching this after the fact as a VOD on YouTube, take a look down at that navigation bar, which should be so conveniently chaptered off for you so that you can jump around to the parts that most appeal to you. You can even watch this at 1.5 times, which I see people doing to quote unquote skip through the yapping. So great to have you all here. Again, if this is your first live stream, we're on these channels once or twice a week. Usually it's Tuesdays and or Thursdays. And we're bringing you content to help you on your game development journey, whether that's technical Unity skills or engine agnostic kind of game industry knowledge, share all of that good stuff. So we would love to see you at a future stream again, if this is your first. With all of that being said, we do have a little bit of housekeeping for you all because it is an exciting time. Unite is on the horizon, everybody. Unite 2025. Reconnect with the Unity community as we return to Spain for 2 full days of learning, networking, and memorable experiences. We'll be showcasing inspiring stories, demos, sessions, our annual keynote, after-hours events, and more. For more information, please visit unity.com/unite. Check it out. I went to this event last year, and it was a ton of fun. That QR code on the screen will also take you to a place for you to learn more information. Again, Unite is fun. I know it's not super approachable for everybody. Get there if you can. I promise you'll enjoy yourself. But we will be doing, the plan right now is to do 2 days of live streams from the event. So if you can't make it there in person, please come and hang out with us in these live stream spaces. The Bull asking, I can't remember, is Unite always in Barcelona? It is not, to the best of my knowledge. My understanding is that it's traveled the globe. It's all over the place. It was in Barcelona last year, and it will be again this year. I don't know if that means that next year will be as well. Uncertain at this time, but that again, November 19th to 20th. Go and check it out if you are able. We are ready to go. So we are going to show you a trailer for this absolutely incredible game. And when we return, we will be joined by our knowledgeable, illustrious guest. So everybody, we will see you in just a moment. And we are back. Alfonso, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good, Jackson. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course.
And hello,
Now,
everybody
Unity, what's that? Say again?
there. And hello, everybody there watching.
Of course, of course. Unity community, I would like to introduce you to my friend Alfonso. Alfonso has been working with us tirelessly to put together this live stream and has been incredible to work with. A wealth of knowledge. I feel like there was a moment, Alfonso, when we were getting ready for the stream, and you were like, yeah, I feel like I know what I want to talk about. And then you just went for 10 minutes and you were like, this, and this, and this, and this. And I was like, oh yeah, people are going to really enjoy this game. This stream. This is going to be really fun to talk about. But we would like to get to know a little bit more about you. Of course, part of the live streams is getting to connect with our guests. So can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, my name is Alfonso. And despite being here, I don't consider myself a game developer, since this is kind of like a new thing for me. I've been developing Node, the game that you guys saw the trailer of a couple of seconds ago, with a friend of mine on our spare time for the last 7 years. But in reality, by trade, both my partner and I work in the animation industry, and we've been working in animation movies for the past 20 years. In my particular case, I've been working at Pixar for the last 15.
Which is impressive. And
as a lighting artist.
As a lighting artist.
Yeah,
right? So I think there's a lot really, really interesting and really, really exciting about your journey, you and your partner, right? You kind of talked about how you don't consider yourself a game dev, and yet 7 years of work, and now we have a game right on the finish line here for being released. Very, very impressive. Again, everybody, we've got a Pixar animation artist here with us. So you can kind of see the striking visuals of this game. Was that kind of, where did you start with creating an idea for a game coming from the animation background? What led you to want to make a game?
So, actually, despite loving storytelling, right? And that's why probably most of the people that work in animation working there, is because me and my partner are gamers at heart. We love gaming. We love video games. I own like hundreds of games. I've been playing all my life. I remember since I was a kid, I had a little ZX Spectrum where you had to load the games with the cassette. So for me, it's been like a forever journey. And I remember the discovery of it was through a colleague at Pixar that recommended me to try Unity. And I remember after many years doing what I do, working in 3D, trying Unity for the first time was almost refreshing or revealing. It brought me back to the days that I started learning 3D when I was a teenager. It felt like so familiar, the discovery, the journey of everything's new. There is a white canvas here that I can create anything, and being at the core, I guess, a creative person, it just drew me in. And I just dragged myself along the road to my best friend, which is the one that I made with the game with. So that's how it started.
That's incredible. So you worked with one of your closest friends to make the game.
Yes.
Was it you who kind of got into Unity for the first time and then said to them, like, hey, maybe we should check this out?
Yeah, I just somebody else recommended it to me, and I tried, and I loved it. I felt again like I was 15 years old and I was rediscovering something new. It felt like a 3D program, but with a play button. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
So I just talked to him about it, since we both love games.
Yeah.
And we started, learning, trying it, and trying to find documentation and connecting with the community, tutorials, anything we could get our hands on. And yeah, no, it's been great. It's been super fun. It's been our hobby for the past 7 years, let's say.
It's really cool to kind of see, because I think a lot of our Unity community would kind of identify a similar journey, right? Where they kind of pick this up as a hobby, a real passion for games, and then just really excited and slowly working at something over years and years of time. And you kind of mentioned to yourself as well, that you don't consider yourself a game dev, and yet you have a game. Can you talk to me a little bit more about the imposter syndrome? Because you said it to me explicitly, and I think our audience, many would find a way to kind of relate to that as well.
Yeah, it happens. It happens heavily to me, but it happens a lot across the industry. I believe all my colleagues and people that work in the field that I do, But yeah, like I even up to today at Pixar, I've been working there for 15 years. Every time I start a new movie, I always thought like, oh, this is the movie that they got me. This is when they're gonna realize I have no. It happens constantly. Um, you mentioned with the game development, I'm the coder of the game. I'm the one that did all the programming. I wouldn't dare to call myself a programmer. Like it's just not. It doesn't fit on my brain.
Well, I'm so glad that you stuck with it anyways, and that you now have something so beautiful to show off. I know we're going to be diving into a ton here, from like references and inspiration, setting up your scene, light blocking, baked lights, geometry, and custom ramp shaders, refining light values, all of that good stuff. But before we do, I think we would be remiss if we didn't spend a second talking about Node, the last favor of the Antarii. For anyone who's never seen this game, or say you're explaining it to a friend at Pixar, how do you typically tell them what the game's all about?
It's a very interesting question. We have like a one-line pitch, right? Which is, this is a puzzle. Mechanically, is a puzzle platformer where you don't have control of the character, right? That's mechanically what you're gonna find. You might find it more related to a programming game, right, where you kind of like stipulate steps on a timeline or order of sequences of events, and you execute them. But for us, what I mean, that's what make it fun. But for us, what matters of the game is the story behind it, right? And at its core, is the interaction between the present world and the past through the eyes of artificial intelligence. That's how we narrated the story. The protagonist, Node, is a robot from present time that is sent to an old Soviet nuclear factory plant, product of the of the Cold War. And through it, you discover an AI produced by the Soviet Union in the 80s. So it's the interaction between these two, let's say, non-conscious entities, right?
Yeah.
Coming from very different points of view and perspective. And your
It's
mission
beautiful.
is just discover what happened there, right? Unravel
Yeah.
all the mysteries within it.
Yeah, it's really fun. Again, as we were kind of setting up to prepare for this stream, we had another colleague of mine that was kind of involved in the process, who essentially said, yeah, I checked out the game and was just curious to see what it was all about. And then hours disappeared. Like, I just found like the core loop so fascinating and so engaging. Did you have a specific inspiration for kind of this nodule input system as the main controls of your character?
It is something that stemmed from a very old idea of removing player control while solving puzzles, and at some point we decided to take it to the extreme and remove complete control of it, right, and do an entire planification of it. And one of the approaches that I think help a lot for it is that creating this system, this mechanic, I think it allows many people that otherwise would not typically play puzzle performers that maybe require dexterity or twitchy reflexes, perfect timing. And we thought, because since it's a genre that we love, that we could actually make it more approachable and accessible for everybody else, that without requiring to have the perfect timing and precise control inputs.
Well, this game looks
Same time,
incredible.
it will allow you to experience the story at your own pace.
Yeah. And people already kind of calling out like this game's lighting is very good. This game looks beautiful. The stylistic approach to it, it's great. So it seems like if that's the most striking and eye-catching thing for people, that we have the right topic today. Before we do dive in, I wanted to kind of highlight and spotlight the reason that you told me you wanted to be a part of the stream, because I think it's so important to our community as well. Do you want to tell people what you said? Do you feel comfortable
absolutely
repeating?
I mean, as I mentioned from the beginning, right? Well, I don't know if I said it, but I'm actually self-taught in general. Like, even with 3D, I never went to university or college. I learned on my own. And one of the main reasons that we pick up in Unity is because of the huge community that it has, right? Not only by numbers, but by the sharing and the passion that the community displays, and the amount of share knowledge and material that is out there at everybody's disposal for free. It was, I mean, that, to be honest, is what allowed us to be where we are today. So one of my reasons to do this is a little bit to give back, right? Since I fed up out of somebody else's shared knowledge to get me where I am today, I would like to do the same. And if I can help somebody with the little bit I know, I'm happy to do so.
Love that. Because again, I've said this, many people have told me this as early as my first interviews with the company, that the best thing about Unity is the Unity community. So the sharing of knowledge, the support that we see across all community platforms, including in this chat, when we see people come in and just ask questions that are completely unrelated, but get answers from other people in the chat, is just so incredible. And again, Unity community, we are putting the Steam link for you to go and check out Node as well. So please go and check out this game. Alfonso, where are we in release? Isn't it like immediately in front of us?
It's 2 days. This Thursday. This Thursday would be live. Yeah, I have to manually press that button in the morning.
Yeah.
So yeah, very soon. We're definitely excited about it after so long.
Yeah. Very exciting. So everybody go and check it out, wishlist it, tell your friends about it, and we'll dive into a little bit more. So what I'm really excited for as we get into today's stream is you're going to learn a lot, Unity community, and it's all going to be kind of exploring the game as the backdrop of that learning and knowledge. So you're going to get to see how beautiful the game is, as well as learning how to achieve similar results for your own game. So I think that is very exciting. One question before we dive in, Andrew the Day says, were you considering accessibility when you made the game? Just asking because it seems like an incredibly accessible and novel control method. Very unique. It stands out. Was that something that you considered getting in there?
We did. It's something that we always had in mind, the fact that we could actually make this genre more approachable, right? I mean, many times I encounter people that love the style of games or the story of certain games, but mechanically cannot get into it. It happened to me with other type of games as well. So we thought, like, why don't we give them the experience of a puzzle platformer with a deep narrative without having to worry where to press that X button to perfection? It's a different thing. I mean, I'm not saying anything bad against the other ones. It's just a different genre.
Perfect. Well, I think we've kind of set the stage, and we're looking like we're set up here. Again, more people with with positive things to say about how good the game looks. We've even got some people that have told us that we've gone and wishlisted the game. So I think with all of that, we are pretty well set. Alfonso, do you want to get us started with kind of setting up your scene?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay,
and
so
we can even do this.
So what I brought here is one of the scenes that actually we will see in the game. And before starting with the setup, I want to preface very quickly that before we went into any of these, we needed to define a little bit the visual style that we were after, right? And we had kind of like emotional pillars that we wanted to transmit with it. One was solitude. We wanted to make it eerie. We wanted to make it feel mysterious. And we certainly wanted to make it feel atmospheric. By those, with those requirements in mind, artistic goals, let's say, one of the most important features that I use on a daily basis, and this is something I want to bring up because I always hear when we show our game that people got like a strong feeling of and remembrance of the game inside, which for us is a huge compliment because I absolutely love that game. I think it looks spectacular, and they did a phenomenal use of atmospheric and volumetric lighting in it. So I understand
Alfonso,
why.
We had multiple people say, "Oh, this looks like Inside," and we even had Jihad here saying it looks like Playdead Studios' next unannounced project. So we see that influence, and I think it's a good thing.
So I understand, and we're really flattered by it because it's a style that we love. But the funny thing is that people, I understand, related to it because the use of heavy volumetric lighting is not common in video games. It's an expensive resource, right? It's heavily performant, and not many people use it to compose. But the funny thing is that to me, in a daily basis, when I work on movies in cinema, is something that I use in every single shot. There isn't a single frame that you see on the screen on a Pixar movie that doesn't have atmospheric volumetric lighting. So for me, it was just natural to light this way. It just happened to align with the style of one of the most prominent games to use that kind of lighting style. But again, that to me is a massive compliment. So that being said, right, this is the basic setup of all the scene, and I wanna preface it with the basic things that we need to activate to get those features that we require for achieving those artistic goals. And we're using HDRP today. And the most important one that we need to make sure we have activated is volumetric fog. That's what will show those things that some people refer as God rays, right? Like, light coming out of the spots, like showing in the atmosphere.
Right.
And we have the standard setup for anything lighting related in Unity that you're going to bake, which in this case will be reflection probes. In my case, I use boxes. There is really nothing that complicated or tricky to talk about, just boxes around volumes. And we will have as well light probes, since it's a requirement for non-static objects that are moving. But in this case, we're going to work directly into the set and the environment. The other thing working with the HDRP, and mostly how we accomplish most of our transitions and visual style, is the volume pipeline set in HDRP. And in this case, I'm going to talk about the two basic things that we're going to work in today, or three, let's say. One would be the fog. The second one would be a sky. Well, believe it or not, the entire game is just based in gradients. It doesn't have that much more complicated than that. And the third one, and I think sometimes overlooked, is the tone mapping. Tone mapping, again, is something that is heavily used in animation and in the movie industry as a lookup table, right? Some way to transform the color space from linear to something that fits your narrative and artistic style. And for this case particular, we chose ACES, which is a standard within the movie industry as well. As you see, it immediately changed the tone of the image. Well, before it was kind of like flat and dull. It immediately turned into something more volumetric, right? It adds volume to the scene. It compresses those high values into an SDR range to make them visible without losing range and color, bring saturation in the low end a little bit up. So that helps a lot. And the other thing will be bringing up the fog. I'm going to do right now, just to have a little base of depth. It just adds a tiny bit of depth perception to the scene. We have no lights yet. This is just a flat gray coming from the sky, which right now is just a gray color. Nonetheless, as any scene that doesn't have any baking information, this thing will disappear the moment we press the bake light, and it will become black. But this is our basic setup. Before talking about lighting, I want to talk a little bit about how do we approach starting something like this, right? So for us, it's very important in the artistic industry to work with reference. Even in the movie industry, believe it or not, we don't look at our own frames or on our past works. We look elsewhere. And that can come in any form. I prepared here some of the references, for example, that we look at when we're looking at this particular scene that we're going to talk about, right? And when I look for reference, it doesn't have to be confined within the same industry or space that you're working for. Any image that can evoke, resemble, and create an emotion within you that is what you're trying to accomplish in yours is good enough. And it doesn't even need to be a video game, doesn't need to be animation, it doesn't need to be 3D. It could be a photograph, it could be a painting, it could be from a movie, it could be from anywhere, it could be a drawing. anything that helps you visualize that emotion that you're trying to convey on that scene. This is, for example, a set of images that I work with when I started that scene. Things that feel mysterious, feels that feel eerie, feels that have this volumetric depth feeling to it. And I try always have them on the background, always to go back to what on this image gave me that feeling. This is the high contrast between the atmospheric ambient light in the center of the scene with those pillars, with those lower arch. And I always try to go back to it when I refer to my lighting.
I love this. I feel like this is like a very transparent peek into an artistic mind, and like seeing the collection and hearing about your motivations of coming back and your process of analysis. It's so insightful. This is so cool to see.
And I think, I think it's important to say it, because I mean, it sounds basic maybe when you say it, but it's hard to forget. And some people jump directly into, I'm going to start putting lights, I'm going to start painting, I'm going to start. And sometimes what we have on our mind, or what we think we have on our mind, it really doesn't resemble what we really want. Like the transformation from what you have on your mind to what you're going to put down there is not as accurate as we think it is. So It's good to have something that grounds you. And again, it could come from anywhere. So setting up now our reference and inspirations, and knowing the goals that we want to achieve with that image, we can go back to Unity now, and we can start working a little bit on that image, right? So first, if I had to do this from scratch, I already did it, obviously, on the game. But when I started this from scratch, I asked myself those questions, right? What is the feeling and the emotion that I try to evoke here? As we mentioned with the references, with this light blocking, what we want to accomplish is a sense of journey and mystery that goes throughout the entire game, through the entire level. Sorry. I would like this room to feel mysterious, to feel eerie, to feel volumetric, to have depth. But we're coming from this direction. So I want this big hall entrance, typical of the Soviet Union grandeur architecture. I want it to feel big, and I want it to feel very different from the room that we come from. So I want to have this dark transition into a pool of light, something that fills up the entire air and create that huge depth of atmosphere. I wanted to feel like in one of the reference, non-defined, like you would not really know where all this light is coming from. That gives that sense of unease, let's say, not having the grounded certainty of what's going on there. And in this part over here, we have more motifs of the Soviet Union. And we'll see later on how did I use these elements in my favor to try to tell a slightly different story since we're approaching a new area. So one of the first elements that I would like to create in here is to use this star or this hole over here as our main source of light. This will not only center the focus of attention on the center of the scene, but on top of that, we have the benefit of having the shadow casted from the Soviet star onto the floor, making it prevalent into the scene the moment you enter the hall, in case there was any doubt at this point that you clearly are in a Soviet nuclear environment. Like, needless to say, we have also the atom represented here in the flooring. So obviously, the only way to go about that is just create a light. I have them creating here because, to be honest, I could have put it from scratch and start moving it around, but that takes so much time to actually put the position perfectly and matching in. And it doesn't add that much value to the story itself, or how are we going to create this, right?
Sure.
Okay, so this would be our start. Like, we would have just a very light fog. We have the volumetric lighting coming directly from the spot, which happens automatically in HDRP. I believe it's also available in URP as well nowadays. And with this, the first thing I would do, just to see what's going on, is just bake this light, right? Because right now we're not seeing the actual result. We're seeing all the gradient sky leaking into the geometry because we have no reflection probe information. And a little trick over here, I mean, I don't know if it's a trick or everybody knows it, and I'm just dumb. But if you select a Windows that doesn't display anything, when you generate the lighting that typically takes quite a bit of time, it literally cuts in 2 or 3 times just because you're not looking at anything. So the GPU is not doing that much work. Since we're in this window, I just want to draw your attention to the fact that our light map resolutions is quite low for almost the entire game. It's just so really not doesn't have a lot of detail, but we don't need it, and that might be something very specific to our game because we want it to be diffuse and atmospheric, right? And also we have the benefit of just having a fixed camera, so we know what's going to be farther away and closer all the time, so we know that we can actually put more detail whenever needed, and we can save a lot. But just for reference, we just display the bake map, but we can see that the resolution is really not that much, and we take advantage of changing the light map resolution per depth to actually don't utilize samples when it's not needed as much. And as you can see, is really enough to give us that sense of atmosphere. We don't need to spend an hour baking the light. We don't need to have massive maps right now, if I'm not wrong. Our maps tend to be 1024 per level, which end up being a very, very low budget for the performance of it. And as I said, it's more than enough. I started backwards. Since I came from the animation industry where I have no constraints, I come from the mindset of everything has to be top notch. I activated everything. Everything was mixed lighting. Everything was real time. Everything had shadows, and the settings were crazy. They took like an hour to render one light. Right. Definitely not needed for what we're looking for. Anyway, so here we have our one light. And one of the first things that we notice once we bake, obviously everything went black because we don't have any other light than just this coming from the sky. One of the first things I notice is that idea or myth that because we have global illumination and light bounces around, this is magic. You just put one thing, press a button, and the entire space filled with light. Nothing happens. Doesn't happen here. Doesn't happen in animation where we spend 100 hours per frame. Doesn't happen there either. It doesn't happen in real life. That's the other thing, right? When you look at a frame from cinema, if you could look behind the camera, there is like hundreds of lights. The ceiling is broken, and they have like illuminated squares all around to diffuse light. Huge umbrellas diffusing lights in corners, you name it, right? So this is the same thing. Artistically, you're just trying to pursue whatever needed to create the image that you want. And I would recommend stay away from thinking what is physically correct. Who cares? Does it look beautiful or not? That's my motto. Like, is it correct? Is it in? Who cares? Doesn't matter. I mean, we're in a secret Soviet nuclear plant. Who cares what's real? A robot is talking to a Soviet AI. Who cares what's real? we threw that out the window already. All right. So this is how I will start to create the emotion from this room that we mentioned. I think I need to, I forgot to turn this on. Perfect. And now we have a good transition from the dark entrance to the volumetry lighting coming from the center. So far, we're in good track. I think all this that we set up is helping us setting up the mood that we wanted for this room. You definitely focus your attention on the center of the screen, which is where the character is going to pass through. And we brought up definitely this element of the Soviet star paired together with the typical Soviet architecture. So having a good blocking that already conveys a little bit what we have. Now we need to find this artistic balance, right? And this is where I would switch in my day-to-day job to start adding lights, right? We have our key light, as is usually called in the industry, which is the light that represents the key direction and the most important light in the scene. And now we will need to start filling the area, right? Because this is obviously, there is no light bouncing around. Even if you can see it here in the light map, is definitely not enough to give you a sense of light bouncing around the atmosphere and bouncing around the environment. And in animation, we would do that. We would start putting huge lights, massive lights everywhere, the same we would do on a live action set. And that's the same way I started when I started in Unity. But I realized very soon that at some point that was going to bite me in the ass when I had to press the play button. That happened very soon. So I had to develop a lot of workarounds for techniques and things that I typically use in CG industry standard software into something that needs to run at 60 frames a second. And I came out with this idea. It could be retarded. I have no idea. It could be a super stupid idea because I don't work in the game industry. So I don't know if everybody does it or nobody does it and somebody has a better idea how to do it. But this is how I came out with it. And the principle is that since it's a very atmospheric environment, I wanted to feel how this light not only bounce from the floor, but bounce within the light itself, right? We are able to see light casted in the air because there are particles, minuscule particles in that air, and light reflects on them. So if it reflects on them reaching the camera, it should reflect on them reaching everywhere else. It should be bouncing around the scene. It should be projecting light. So I started very simply creating geometries, just very simple geometries, cylinders, boxes with an unlit shader, and adding colors to it, emulating how the atmosphere within those volumes bounce light outwards and fill up the space. This here is a slightly advanced version. Well, advanced version, not advanced, just like a little tweak on an unlit shader, which instead having one color, I just have two. So I have the possibility of creating two colors instead of one, and I have control over the emission multiplier, and not only generally, but per color, and I have a midpoint to adjust how that gradient is going to change within that volume. This allows me, and we'll see in a second, emulate that bounce within the atmospheric itself without losing the artistic control of doing something that is clearly not physically possible, right? Like we cannot have only one light bouncing two different colors depending of the position of the sky. It's not going to happen. But again, who cares? And the good thing is I could stack this at will. Let's start, for example, baking this one so we can see what I'm talking about and compare it with what we have. Hopefully this is quite fast.
Yeah. I mean, again, I will take a second here to thank everybody for joining us. We've had a lot of really interesting questions and people kind of helping each other in the chat as well. We're collecting a handful of questions. So if you have them as we go, let us know. If it's like very astutely connected to what we're talking about in the moment, we'll try and get it there. Otherwise, we have dedicated Q&A time towards the end. So again, if anyone has any big questions, please let us know.
Okay, so now that the baking has finished, now we can see how even though we have this light here, right, all of a sudden we have way more information. Like here before we couldn't see anything at all. Now we start reading. Well, we can compare it with this area that has nothing yet, right? This is what we had before. It was no information whatsoever, just the gray of the fog. And while we come in here, all of a sudden we feel like light is propagating from this center, right? Another one of those artistic liberties is that, as you saw with the first bake, the light is almost white and is hitting a red ground. So the bounce is typically warm. So I took the liberty to use on those geometries cool colors to create the complementary effect, and it creates a more beautiful image. And that's only with that one geometry, which tries to emulate the hottest core on that volumetric lighting that we have at the center. But I can stack them up. So I created another one, which is wider and has a slightly different gradient. And we're going to see what this makes in a moment. So in the meantime, while it bakes, if we have any questions.
Yeah, we actually just had one from Kieran here. How did the light from that geometry get included in the bake, even though it seems the mesh renderer is off?
So that's a great question. The mesh rendering should not be off. It is on. Otherwise, she's absolutely correct. It wouldn't happen.
Gotcha.
And it just contributes to lighting because it has the contribute GI in the static collection. These objects are only used for creating that bake lighting. They're never present in the game. Nonetheless, just in case, I add them always to a different layer, just in case some of them got leaked into the game, they don't appear on camera. As a matter of fact, we have a camera here with a similar point of view that we have on the game. So you can see how all these start to, amount to that volumetric feeling, key direction, and how the light is feeling the environment naturally. It looks natural, right? But it's not. As you could see, it's the opposite of natural the way we did this. But it feels like it, which at the end of the day is the goal, to me at least, artistically. Okay, so since we saw this area, we can check this area over here that now is the one that is fully black and it has nothing. As I mentioned before, in here I wanted to do something slightly different, right? Right now I think is working. This idea that we have, well, we don't have the lighting in this room, but we come from a very different environment. All of a sudden we came into darkness. We came into darkness, into a big room that little by little opens up, and it brought up all these volumetric, the atmospheric lighting. And in here, we're exiting that main hall, and we're coming to a different room, right? Not only is guarded by a heavily armored door, which is strange, right? But we have a vent over here, and we don't know where it's leading. So, I mean, I know because we designed it that it's leading to a dangerous place, right? And this is the beginning of that journey to a place that is danger to you. So one of the ways we wanted to communicate that, and I thought about it, is using these vents on the top to make you feel like you're being watched or something is above you, right? Which always gave you a sense of unease. So in this case, the key light that I created was something like this. It was just something coming from a certain place that is shining light upon you, and it forces you to go through it and wonder what is up there, right? And you don't know. You clearly don't see anything. And of course, I already placed the light. There's nothing mysterious about this light. It's just a spotlight placed very carefully in that spot to create specifically the shape that we wanted with that light and that shadow. This one being also a key light is also marked as mixed. But to be honest, these are the two lights that represent the 90% of all the lighting in the scene coming from lights. Everything else is, as you saw, geometry, bake stuff, and just tricks. There is one more thing that we have on our disposal, which I tackled very briefly at the very beginning, and is those volumes, right? So far, we have adjusted the tone mapping to get the ASOS values. Mm-hmm. And we saw the volumetric fog, right, as well as the fog. We can actually see the difference here if we untackle it. We see how the fog is the one that creates that depth, right?
Yeah.
And the volumetric fog is the one coming with the source of the lights themselves, like here and here. But the other technique that we use heavily in the game is to use these gradient skies. It's just a gradient of color. And as you saw from first baking, the moment you bake, they disappear. They don't have an impact on the geometry itself. But we used it very heavily because even though they don't show up on the scene itself, they show up in the fog. So just activating that, it'll give you control to do gradients and tint in these atmospherics. So you can use it to your advantage to create as much depth and color as you want. In this case, for example, we have blue because I always wanted to complement it with the warmth of the floor, and I still want to feel like an uninvited kind of like abandoned place. I don't want it to feel it with life. But changing those feelings is as simple as changing the tone of this. Now all of a sudden, just getting a little bit warmer is like more inviting, right? It's something that feels more cozy. While when it's blue, it's like, it takes you a little bit of a knees.
Right. Right.
And to see the final result, we can actually bake lights again. No need for green sky, but just for the new key light that we activated.
Yeah. We do have sorry, go ahead, Alfonso.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, Davina Duckworth asked an interesting question. What's the emotional goal of the scene? When you go into kind of each scene, is that where you start before you light? You say, hey, I know you've mentioned kind of the feeling of unease and uncertainty. Do you start there and then work into the lights to achieve that effect?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. There is one thing that we say in animation that happens with every department, but everything that we do, every department is design, animation, set dressing, and lighting. It has to be at the service of the story, right?
Right.
Imagine a sad moment, unless it amounts to a crazy amount of contrast. But imagine a sad moment on a happy, regular place. It wouldn't have the same effect, the same dramatism, the same photography is very important to convey emotions. And also directing the eye to the relevant information of the frames. So for us, serving the story at every point is the key of it, right? It's great if the image is beautiful, but that's always the cherry on top. The cake itself is that it has to convey and support the emotion that you're trying to find with this. So that's absolutely right. Every time I start something, I question myself, in the case of the video game, where did we come from? What happened before? What's happening now? What do I want the player to feel? And how do I want this journey to be, right? In the case of movies, for example, we have the pitch from the director and the story are telling us what's happening in the story at that time, what the character is feeling, what the conversations are about, and where are we heading, right? At the end of the day, storytelling is storytelling, whether it fits with an image or with phrases, with a painting, with a photograph, or with a podcast, right? It's a narrative, it's a journey. So what do we want to tell with it? So we use every artistic tool at our disposal to support that.
Awesome. No, I love that. That's incredible insight. Again, I mentioned it earlier, but kind of seeing the artistic approach and the insight into your process has been very, very enlightening so far.
I'm glad you like it, man.
Of course.
I appreciate it. As I said, like anything I can bring, if people can find any value to it, I'm happy to do so.
Awesome.
And as you could see, all this that we did today is quite simple, right? Like it really wasn't. I just put a couple of lights, a fog, and some color. I just hope it transmits what it does, and people will agree with the fact that that's the feeling that it gives you when you come into this environment. And we can actually do a little bit of camera movement over here to see that transition and to see if it. Oh, we forget to activate the volume. There we go. Let's make sure we have those volumes on. Yeah, I work with the volumes of Unity a lot for blending and transition between the scenes. It worked amazingly well. So yes, here we have this transition of the dark environment, the ceiling above you covering all that natural light, and transitioning into that center stage where you read the atom, you read as a second level of detail the star of the Soviet Union projected into the ground. And here you start darkening again, right? We start seeing the armor door that could be further emphasized if that's something that we really wanna look at, right? But I think at this level is right enough. And in here is inevitable that you look upwards. The moment you come in here is like something's up there, right? And at some point that something it shines light upon you. There is, of course, a million things that you could refine based on storytelling here. As I said, like, let's say you wanted to emphasize the difference between environments. So you could put some other geometries that bake light onto surfaces, or accent lights to actually emphasize the specular on that light to make sure it's visible and it has contrast and luminance enough to be the center of attention at this point in time. In here, for example, as a third point of interest, we have this Soviet mural that brings you into the atmosphere of you are in a foreign land. But you could bring in further. You can emulate with another light that you bake a bounce from this area, shining light into this one.
Right.
And if we have time, we could do it. You tell me how we go. I don't know if I ramble too much.
No, you're doing great. We've got plenty of time. So if there's anything else that you wanted to kind of showcase, again, we do have some time for some Q&A. And I know you also mentioned a willingness, Alfonso, to just be like, hey, if anyone has anything they want to see in these scenes, like, let me know and we can explore. So if you've got something in mind, feel free.
So yeah, well, this is actually the Unity project for the game itself. So we have the whole game. I mean, obviously we're not going to spoil it. But yeah, I can show however much we need or want to actually solve those questions. But we can, since we have now in an area that we like and enjoy, and we feel like it's conveying what it is, we can go into a more refining stage, right? We can go and find those little things that we can do to take it up a notch a little bit. Like this entrance, for example, I like it. I like the darkness, but the honest truth is that if the character comes around here, it's going to be hardly seen, because it's going to be against a very faint background. The ramping on the ground is too dark. So we can, for example, emphasize this with either one of those geometries that I mentioned before, or we can add a little bit of a light here. This light right now is in real time, just for the sake of the demo, to being able to turn it on and off. But there is no need for it to be, right? It could be vague, so we could get completely out of the way for performance reasons. And this adds a little bit, as you see when you turn it off and on. It's a little bit, but it's enough for you to have some readability of what's happening in the background, and separate it from that midground that is fully black. And we have the same thing over here. Just a tiny bit, right? Fills a bit more the environment, and it emulates that bounce propagating from the ground. I did it right now as a blocking with just a simple area light. Let's see if we can see. Yeah, that's it. Just a simple area light shining down onto the ground, the area where the light bounces, emulating that it's coming back up. And that's it. You can push it as far as you want. A couple of tricks that I would like to share, because they're incredibly easy. They don't affect performance whatsoever, and they help massively with complex visual styling. I'm gonna show it to you. This is not, I didn't prepare this, but I just
Here we go.
show it to you really quick.
We'll do it live.
Creating nuances and complexity whenever possible. And I'll explain in a second what it is. Let's say we want to do this thing that we mentioned. Let's get this range up. All right. Beautiful. Okay. Let's say we want to emulate the light bouncing on there, right? Let's use a pyramid. Okay. So you put something like this over here. And let's bring it down so it's not absolute crazy, right? It immediately says, like, all right, I mean, it definitely helps reading that wall, right? Before it was a little bit more invisible. But what is about with these lines, right? These lines, this is all wide, this is flat. And there is a couple of things that you could do so easily and so free, that why not? Instead of having a wide, perfect mathematical rectangle casted into a surface, you have two options here. One is adding a cookie, and the other one is an IES profile available in HDRP. I don't know if the new RP is available as well. They're two slightly different things, but I will comment them really quick in each one of them. A cookie comes from the old gaffing term of movie industry, where you just put a slide or something in front of a spotlight and just, light passes through it. In this case, you can put here almost anything. I have some that I use for the game itself. For example, we have this one that emulates a spotlight. And all it is, as you can see here, let me see if I can bring the image. You see, it's just a texture with a little bit of nuances, a bit of changing color, luminance, and a gradient.
Yeah.
And just with that, those lines are gone because you are fading to black at the edges, right? And all of a sudden, you have nuances. It's not flat. All of a sudden, you have a natural tone to it. And this is just, let's see if I can get my handles on this. There you go. And yeah, and again, it's just frame. It's the same light. Add a tiny texture, which is 128 by 28 or something like that. And immediately you have a complex, nuanced light that feels natural and integrated, right? Now that we look at it in context, it looks great. I mean, it totally fits the context, right? But when we look at it without it, it was like it meant to be there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the goal with all these changes. So this is one approach to create these nuances and complexity almost for free. Using cookies, I use cookies everywhere. Sometimes the obvious example is like if you have like a light up in the sky, clouds are going through it, you don't cast shadows of the clouds, that's incredibly expensive. You put a texture with doubles of trees or with clouds, and it casts and projects the light using that. The other one is an IES profile, which only does, I haven't had an example here. I think I have some, but I don't know how they're going to look in this regard. It's hard to show you. I should have prepared an image. That was my bad. But
okay, you're doing profile, great.
It just emulates how a lens on front of a light distort and amplifies light, right? The same as, the easiest example is when you have a magnifying glass, right? Line shines through it and you have that super hot spot and darker on the edges. Well, that happens with anything that you put a lens on top of it, it distorts the amount of light that it creates, and it creates patterns. You know what? Actually, we can bring one that uses it. Let me see if I can find one really quick.
Yeah.
Lapsus on. Let's see. I created a ton of lights.
Yeah, I bet.
So you see in here, for example, we're using this little cookie to create that effect that the grid on top of the lamp is casting the shadow. It actually doesn't. It's just a little bit of a texture that creates with these nuances. And that IES effect is that these lines over here, do you see that you have lighter, darker, which is the typical thing that you have with a grunge lens. And that's easily emulated by an IES profile, and it costs you nothing. And actually, you can find them for free in many web pages on the internet. So, and the cookies itself, you can even paint yourself. Is usually a texture which is tiny. You can just paint with Photoshop or GIMP or whatever you guys use.
Yeah.
If you see the other ones I have, I probably even painted myself. Let's see. Look at this thing. I just did it in GIMP with 3 little circles and blur, but it's enough to give you. These ones have a very specific purpose in the game, but when you see it's shining, you see it's something complex. It's not just a regular spot. It almost looks like you have 3 spots in one, and you're projecting some texture into it. It's complex, it's nuanced, it's not flat. You can add color to it. So you can actually distort the color that you're projecting with it. And again, most importantly, performance-wise, it's almost free.
Yeah.
So why not?
In terms of like tips and tricks, this seems like it's really connecting with people as well. Davina saying the flat lighting can look fake, and it seems like a bad video game. So this is adding a lot of depth to it. Trish says, I can't wait to try this. It's a great trick. Kieran says the IES knowledge is super useful. Been too scared to even put anything in there because I don't know what it is. So that's super helpful as well.
Give it a try. It doesn't work, change it. Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah, well, so that's a question I kind of have for you, Alfonso, as well. This is a 7-year process, and when you started, you didn't know game dev. At
Yes.
what point did you start to feel like the learning had slowed down and the actual being able to execute on your vision picked up?
Never. Like the learning every day, from day one to day last, I learned something new. And to be
Okay.
honest, that's part of what I love of it, right? If I always thought that if someone thinks already knows it all, that's the last day that you learn something new. If you come in with the mentality like, I know how to do it, that's it. That's the latest level you're ever gonna accomplish. So I
Awesome.
always approach things from the perspective that I still don't know too much about it, let's say.
That's awesome. I think also very encouraging. Like we kind of talked about the relatability of imposter syndrome for a lot of people, but also like the understanding that like even say someone goes and gets a degree and went through the schooling process, you're still going to learn something every step of the way, and that eternal learning process should be
Mhm.
hopefully a little less intimidating as you go.
Yeah. I mean, it should be encouraging. That's the fun part of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Are you ready for maybe some Q&A?
Yeah, absolutely. Anything.
Awesome.
Maybe sometimes I don't know what do I forget or what people might have thought of it more interesting than others. So happy to
Yeah.
show more or share more or clarify anything that was kind of murky.
Of course. No, you've done great. I want to reassure you that this was incredibly insightful and thorough. Like this was great. Every step of the way, Alfonso, you have been a
I
fantastic
appreciate
partner
that,
to work
man.
with.
Happy to help.
Good, good, good. I know, not a question, but I know we're in community Q&A. Iker says, Alfonso, I appreciate your passion for this project. So many years of hard work paid off. It looks really spectacular.
Thank you,
So
man.
not a question, but I felt like an important thing to pass along here.
I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Sometimes one thing I mentioned is true as an artist, you lose objectivity, right? When you are the one creating something, it's hard to know whether if it's good or not. So even if it sounds silly, it's really appreciated the fact that people see with fresh eyes and see like, oh, this is cool, or that give me the vibe that that you're actually were looking for. That is actually it helps a lot with motivation.
Good, good. And again, Unity community, I've collected a handful of questions, but if you have more, please let me know and we'll try to get them here. We do have a little bit of time, and I know Alfonso has allocated a little extra time for us to have a little bit more of a thorough Q&A. So please keep keep those questions coming. Who did we have here? I guess I did not take the name, but we did have a question earlier about how did you come to organize your game objects in the scene, the geometry, triggers, and audio, etc. I believe this was Mr. Awesome, but yeah, if we take a look at it,
Yeah.
very well organized. And I think as soon as we opened it up, someone else was like, "Look how well organized this project is." Any insights into how you got there?
This is due to the fact that I'm a bit crazy. So I'm pretty OCD with these things, and to me, organization, order, conventions is paramount. Otherwise, I could not work. Nonetheless, it is truly something that you will for sure see once the project start growing. Right, this thing can start slow. You can prototype. You could be dirty, but the moment these things start expanding and growing, you better have a system in place or it's going to be a mess that you could not believe. So yeah, I mean, I try different plugins and stuff. I try many different solutions. For us at the very beginning was incredibly simple. Just create an empty object and just group things there. So yeah, that's what we did.
I think there's always going to be a curiosity around that topic. I feel like it's something that we see frequently where people are like, we've had people internally conceptualize, hey, maybe we could just do a live stream with any guest just about how they organize their project and how they keep things clean and how they keep it easy for collaboration with different people and things like that as well. So I think that's really, really fun. Thank you for the insight. We had Ivan Medina asking, how true is it that it's never recommended to use pure black in screens, specifically for games, to avoid a readability issue? Just remembering what a guy suggested to me as a professional lighter working at Disney as well.
To be honest, it's true for every medium, not only video games. You don't want pure black. Is a bad idea. It's the same thing. You don't want pure white because it just clumps. It doesn't look good. Anytime you think you see white on a screen of a movie or something, give it a try. Get a color picker. I guarantee you, most of the time, it's not white. Same thing with black, and it doesn't really hurt. If it's just 0.01, it will still look black to you, but it shouldn't mathematically be perfectly black. Yeah, that's a standard.
Awesome. Iker asking another great question here, and they say, in the article you already discussed some of the limitations of lighting for games and lighting for movies, but what's one of the advantages of lighting in a game engine that you cannot find elsewhere?
Millions, but the first one is this thing. In an hour, we've been running around, changing lights, baking scenes. Let me do something really quick. I can get right now. Let's open this thing. And we're going to grab, just as a try, all this thing over here. Pop. And just like that, in a matter of seconds, we have the entire game over here. And we can see the result of things live. Let me turn off this thing. Oh, I messed it up. Sorry. But anyway, so my point is that it's super easy to light in real time. That's something that in 3D is unheard of. It's almost impossible to think that you could do that. While in this case, you can just modify, change, tweak, you can navigate the scene, you can look up and down, and this is all live. It goes in real time, and you can. When you play, you go 60 frames a second, and you see that in the 3D world is unheard of. Every time I work on a movie, even if I press a button to create a very rough render, it takes me like 10-15 minutes just waiting just to see noise. And to see the actual result of something, I need to wait for the next day. It takes literally hundreds of hours per frame.
That's a lot.
We have tens, at this point, hundreds of thousands of computers just rendering images, so the next day we can see something. Right. So the huge advantage of this is the flexibility of working, right? Iteration, the faster you can iterate, the better is going to be your image if you know what it is. In 3D, you can maybe change things 4 times a day. That's all the time you have to change certain things. In here, you can change 100 times a second.
Yeah.
So that is this huge advantage.
Yep, absolutely. We've got another one here from Loud. They say, hello. What about the quantity of lights we can have in a scene and their proximity to one another? If I remember correctly, there are some performance limitations with the amount of lights visible that we can have in a scene. Do you have suggestions to approach this, or the lighting you do, or is the lighting you do more film oriented? Sorry if this is a topic already discussed.
No, it makes total sense. So I believe what he's referring is to the limitation of having you cannot have more than 3 mixed lights per pixel. So if you have practical lights that are very close to each other, one of them is going to be turned as a backlight automatically by Unity, and as a matter of fact, if you have something like volumetric lighting, it will be deactivated because it cannot be on a backlight. So that is a big limitation. And the way I would work around it is just don't use real lights. That's what I was trying to convey with your example. Don't try to put every single real light as a real light itself. Don't try to fill up with real lights because those are very expensive, especially if you mark them as mixed or real time. That's going to have a huge performance cost. Instead, do something that emulates what you're trying to accomplish, right? Put one of those geometries. You can put, I'm going to give you a very simple example. Just using this as a visual reference. In this case, we have actual lights, but imagine, for example, you want to have these lights, right? And they conflict with each other because of the spacing and the qualities that they need to have. You don't need 5 lights. You can create one rect light that occupies all this space and has one cookie. And the cookie is just those little slivers of white light. that will emulate the same effect without having to use 5 lights.
That's quick. That's a quick tip. I feel like the number of like just one sentence tips that are massive nuggets of knowledge that you've dropped is immaculate. It's been exceptional.
I'm glad people can find some help on it.
Yeah. We have Kieran asking here, do you do cheap bakes for your lighting during the process and then crank the settings for a final bake before release?
Actually, what you guys saw live, those are my final bakes. Yeah, I try to optimize it to a place that every bake takes around 5 and 20 seconds.
Okay.
Because if you lose that flexibility, that iteration process, it really doesn't help that much. But again, it might be a very personal case to me, the fact that I know exactly where the camera is going to be located, right? How big the objects are going to be in screen. If you have an open world 3D space where you can navigate, you might not have the luxury and you need to crank it up a little bit more. But I would always say try to start from the lower end. Try to start as low as possible so you can actually manage to work fluidly, and crank up when necessary, right? If you start seeing artifacts and performance issues, perfect, but crank it up. Otherwise, I would recommend just leave it there.
Gotcha. We've got another question here from the Bull asking, what is your biggest pet peeve when working with lighting in games or film? Any frustrations that come to mind?
Sorry, say that again.
What is your biggest pet peeve when lighting for games or film?
It's funny because I don't know what pet peeve is, and I talked to my wife about it I think it was like yesterday or 2 days ago.
Wow, good timing.
I still didn't get it. So you can re-explain me what pet peeve is.
So a pet peeve is just something like a nagging frustration, something that annoys you whenever it comes up.
Well, one of the things that actually nags me a lot is one of the things that the other person mentioned, which is when you use too many mix lights close to each other and it doesn't have enough pixel information to get them marked, and then you need to try to say like, oh, how do I save these lights? How can I remove all this stuff so it's compatible? So that's what I said. Like over the years, I found much easily just to try to economize from the beginning and not the other way around. Instead of starting big and then start economizing, start as simplified as possible. That way you're going to encounter that roadblock that is nagging you very early on.
Great. And we've got, again, a handful of more questions. I'm really grateful that the Unity community is so engaged and curious today. This one might not be one that you have an answer for, Alfonso, but Bermuda Depe is asking, what do you think URP and HDRP in terms of differences in lighting features, pros and cons? Did you have a sense of why you chose the render pipeline that you did, or was it just you picked one and became really familiar with it?
So the truth is that I don't know much about URP nowadays, right? Because when we started 7 years ago, we decided through HDRP precisely for these features that I mentioned, right? The volumes, the post-processing, and the volumetric lighting. And URP, I think at that point, didn't even exist. I know at some point URP was introduced and it did not have those features either. That's why we still remain with HDRP. I think nowadays they have them, but I don't know to what extent they can be comparable. I really don't know because I don't have that much experience with it.
Yep. Understandable. That's kind of where I thought we would go as well, but just wanted to make sure to get that question out there just in case. Davina Duckworth asking, does Alfonso get inspired from lighting and mood via classical art? Where do you think, like, I know you had your mood board, which was super thorough, but
yeah.
When that mood board's empty, where do you get started?
So yeah, that's a great question. And yeah, I got inspired by absolutely everything. As I mentioned, like you don't need to limit yourself to that. Like you can go Renaissance paintings. That's, I mean, Caravaggio, Raphael has unbelievable lighting, right? So when I try to find those references and I don't limit myself to any genre, what I actually is go to Google and type some type of emotion. For example, something like that hole that I was going to say. I type maybe hole abandonment or solitude, and I try to get images that already created that convey those emotions. And that's where I start. And then you go down the rabbit hole of internet, of course, and getting images and images, and we have like millions upon millions of them. But yeah, there is so many resources out there to find good images. Now they might be a little bit more complicated because AI is polluting a lot of those searches, right? And you find more or less the same AI generated stuff. But yeah, there is if you are willing to pay for it, also there is some private libraries of frames collection from movies with high search capabilities. So there's a ton of resources out there.
That's great. We are going to set up a giveaway. Alfonso's brought us 3 codes to give away for Node here as well when it comes out this week. I don't want to give it to people early. That seems unwise. But this giveaway will be opening now. We'll do a couple more questions and then we'll pull our 3 winners. The giveaway is on Twitch. I understand a lot of you are watching on YouTube, but it is super quick. Should take you 30 seconds or less to hop over to Twitch and put ! giveaway in the chat. So it will take you no time at all. Feel free to hop over there. Again, we're giving away 3 Steam copies. This is 4. This is what I mean. 3. We're giving away 3 Steam copies, and it's a great game. You've seen it all today. It's incredibly beautiful. In terms of the giveaways, I know we have we've seen people ask in the past, why not YouTube as well? There's just not a simple tool that completely randomizes entries and winners. So we'll always remind you and give you ample time if you need to make the switch. So again, twitch.tv/Unity. Alfonso, we have a great question here for you as well. Mm-hmm. Mr. Awesome is asking, have you considered upgrading the project to 6.2, or is there something that stops you? And I know you started it 7 years ago. As you saw new features rolling out, was there a moment where you thought, okay, well, maybe we should?
Oh, yeah. And so I've been giving the demo with the Unity version that we actually finished the project with, which is 2022.3, the LTS. Mm-hmm. But as you mentioned, it started 7 years ago, so I don't even remember. I think I mean, if it wasn't 5, I don't know. It was a long time ago. So we upgraded the project many, many times. And I mean, at some point, you just have to stop, because not only it takes time, but every time you upgrade, especially with big jumps, things might break. They might not be compatible. You know, it might not be as a seamless transition sometimes as you would have wished. So at some point, we just stopped. But yeah, during the years, many things were upgraded, features were introduced, and we just upgraded to actually benefit from those features.
Davina Duckworth also mentioning, not quite a question, but I'd love to talk about it a little bit. How did you manage scope creep over 7 years? I feel like scope creep, this concept of like the ideas getting bigger and bigger and bigger over a 7-year project. Was that something you kind of had to fight a little bit?
So funnily enough, I mean, we did have a ton of scope creep over the years, ton of ideas we wanted to implement. We prototyped so many things into the game that we tested. But I feel we end up getting very lean very early on. Usually, I think we had like a very clear idea of the feeling that we wanted to convey, not only with the art itself, but with the mechanic. And every time we try something else, if it got in the way of communicating that, we just remove it directly.
Right.
To give you a clear example, at some point we had some quest log system or a journal and a console that kind of like, there's so many stuff that you can think of that we implemented. We always wonder every time that we prototype something like that, is that helping conveying what we want, or is it just getting on the way? And if the answer was the latter, we just remove it, no matter what.
I like that it seems kind of at every step you have a vision in mind. Like, I feel like there's a lot of creatives that start a process and discover it on the way. But I love that it seems like you guys already knew exactly what you wanted to create, even from a scene-to-scene basis with the lighting as the example. You knew which emotion you wanted to convey, and then you worked from there. I think that you guys had such a vision, and being able to execute it over 7 years is impressive.
Yeah, and as I said, I think that's and that might be our experience coming from the movie industry, right? What, as I mentioned, everything has to be at the serve of the story. You're telling something, right? So the question is always, does this help to tell this something, or is just an add-on? It's just, flourishing. And if it's
Sure.
flourishing, is out.
Yeah. Jihad asking on the prototype question here, or topic here, how long does it take to prototype an idea to test if it should be in or out of the game? For you guys, did you have a rule of thumb of like, we're only going to dedicate a certain amount of time to prototyping things?
I was quite quick prototyping that type of thing, to be honest. Anytime we came out with an idea, like for example, at some point we had, as I mentioned, a console on the lower bottom of the screen that kind of like give you clues around the things around you, or it gives you the messages of your environment, things that now you experience at your own pace through the map. That took me like put it together like 2 days. I
Okay.
I wouldn't put like everything that we tested. I would never put in more than 4 days, 5 days of work. I want to see it fast. I want to see it there. I want to see it in context. That's the thing. I don't care how cool it looks in an isolated project by itself, because that's not how people experience it. It's a part of a whole. So I always introduce it within the game itself. I don't work in isolated environments, because we're not testing a proven system. We want to test it in context. And
Yeah.
I dedicated the minimum amount of time to just have a viable system to test whether if it improves something or not.
Yep. Fast prototyping, as Davina follows up and saying, yeah, absolutely. We do have a couple more minutes for this giveaway. So again, if you're not already over at twitch.tv/unity, ! giveaway in the chat. Everyone gets one entry, so feel free to hop on over there. We do have a couple of more questions, which have been great. Iker also asking, how do you keep inspired, disciplined, and committed for the project for 7 years while having a full-time job and personal lives? Any advice for people struggling with balancing all of those things?
To be honest, I don't know if I have the answer to it beyond the fact that I'm a bit crazy. Like, I know that in myself. As I mentioned, I'm self-taught myself, right? I've never studied for anything. I didn't have like a formal education for what I do today, and I think it's just part of the way I do things. I always love computers. I always love storytelling. I was a massive Disney fan. And in 1996 in Spain, when I saw Toy Story 1, it was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. And it sounded absolutely ridiculous that every person I said it, because that wasn't even a thing. It wasn't an available career.
Right.
There wasn't a college that you can go to it. And obviously from Spain coming to the United States working for Pixar, it was ludicrous even to think about it. But I was like, no, this is it, man. So I just kept at it. I think I'm just a little bit crazy in that regard. Like, I don't stop. Whenever I had a goal in mind, I just keep going and keep going. My wife is not particularly fond of that. But yeah, no, it's hard. I don't know exactly. I think it's just a personality thing to keep you motivated through such a long period of time doing the same thing. I don't know. You need to be very mentally robust, dedicated to that goal.
Yeah. Which I think is incredible insight as well. I think every single nugget of peek behind the scenes that you've provided has been absolutely incredible. And I don't talk about this often, but in an effort to be able to connect with you, Alfonso, my previous career was a skater with Disney on Ice, and Toy Story was my first show that I did. So to have you as like your starting point being Toy Story, mine was as well.
That's pretty good, man.
That's really fun to say. And again, it's not about me, so I try not to talk about it too much. But okay, this is fantastic. Thank you to everybody who's entered the giveaway. We are going to wrap it up right now and close it off. We're going to pull 3 winners. So if you hear your name called on Thursday when the game releases, I will reach out to you via Twitch DMs and I will send you the code. So do not trust any other account other than the Unity one, and we'll never ask for any personal information. You'll just receive a thank you for participating and a code here as well. So our first winner is Altalier. Altair, who I believe has won a couple of times recently as well. Congratulations. We have also got a name in a non-English script, which congratulations. I'll be able to still identify you and get that key over to you, even though I can't pronounce your name on the stream. Altair. No, because I got it wrong. Got it. Understood. And last but not least, Mwenmen, one of our frequent flyers. Congratulations. I'll be reaching out to all three of you for those prizes. Congratulations. And Alfonso, we're kind of here. We're at the end. We did it. Thank you so very much for spending all of the time here. Congratulations on 7 years of work, finally getting the game out on Thursday. I wish you and your partner all the luck in the launch. I hope that it's absolutely incredible. Thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you, guys, and thank you very much for having me. And yeah, we're super happy finally came. And we can't wait to hear the feedback of the people, see what they think, and I'm happy to be there supporting the game along the way. And hopefully it doesn't break, but if it does, we'll fix it.
Well, either way, we've put the Steam link in there for everybody. So if you didn't win, make sure to go and wishlist this game and check it out on Thursday. We've also put the official Discord of the game in there as well. So once you get in there and start playing it, make sure to connect with the community over there and let everybody know how much you loved the game. And with that, Alfonso, one final thank you, and we'll say goodbye to you as well. Stick around backstage. I'll check in with you in just a moment. We'll see you again soon. And with that, Unity community, just us once more. Thank you all so very much for being here and hanging out and being a part of these streams. Love being able to connect with you all on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Our next stream will be next Tuesday, as we've had some scheduling changes in the last little while. So make sure to come on back and check it out. We will be talking to guest host Manu. We'll be talking with Esteban and Benoit about UI Toolkit. We'll give a general overview, getting started in UI Toolkit, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into World Space UI for UI Toolkit, which I know we talked about very briefly last week, and we're going to get a little bit more information for you all. So if you join the stream in the middle, make sure to go and check out the VOD on YouTube. We'll have that chaptered in the next little while for you all, so you can go through and see anything that you may have missed. Again, a big thank you to everybody for being here. Unity community, you all are incredible, and I hope that you know that. Thank you once more to Alfonso for being a part of this stream. I appreciate you all. I hope that you have a fantastic rest of your week. And until I see you all again, my name is Jackson. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.